Most people think money problems are solved by smarter plans. But a lot of the time, the plan is fine. It's the attention that's broken. And when attention is broken, you can work hard for years and still feel like you're running in place. So today, I want to talk about a different lever, not more motivation, not a better 5-year plan, a way of thinking that changes what you notice, what you choose, and what you persist through. Welcome back to The Passive Path. I'm your host, and this is the show where we try to make money feel less like chaos and more like a system you can live with. Today's topic is simple to say and hard to do: how to live in a way that makes your outcomes compound. And to explore it, I'm joined by a fictional guest, not a celebrity, not a guru, no credentials, no fame, just a character built to represent a set of ideas about work, focus, and how people seem to see opportunities earlier than others. Guest, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. And I like the framing, because the ideas we're talking about can sound mystical if we oversell them. I'd rather keep them practical. Less magic, more mechanics.
Good. Let's start with the big claim people hear and instantly reject: that you can change your life by changing how you live. That sounds vague.
It sounds vague because people here live differently and imagine slogans. But what it really means is change the operating system behind your choices. Most outcomes are downstream of repeated decisions. Repeated decisions are downstream of what you pay attention to. And attention is shaped by your inner state, your beliefs, your fears, your default stories.
So you're saying money is psychological?
Partly. Money is math and behavior, but behavior is heavily psychological. Two people can have the same information and get different outcomes because they interpret risk differently, they react to stress differently, they stick with boring work differently, they negotiate differently.
Okay, give me a concrete example.
Let's use a simple one. A person who says, "I want to be financially free." That's not a plan. That's a wish. A plan sounds like, "I will increase my income by building one skill with market value. I will keep expenses stable. I will invest automatically. And I will run small experiments for additional income." But the deeper difference is what they do on an ordinary Tuesday, when nothing is exciting, when nobody is watching. That's where how you live shows up.
What does that Tuesday look like?
For the person who compounds outcomes, they choose one primary mission for the season. They do the hard, boring part first. They reduce distractions. They track reality, not feelings. They keep promises to themselves. For the person who doesn't, they start the day reacting. They jump between tasks. They comfort themselves with planning and research. They avoid discomfort, and then they call it bad luck.
That hits a nerve, because a lot of people feel unlucky.
Right, and some of it is luck. But people underestimate the luck created by consistent exposure and repetition. If you do high-quality reps, you run into more chances.
You use the phrase inner state. I want to go there, but carefully, because this is where people start talking about manifestation and the universe.
Let's be careful. Yes, here's a grounded version. Your brain is a filtering system. It can't process everything, so it filters based on what you care about and what you fear. If you're obsessed with avoiding embarrassment, you'll notice every risk and miss the upside. If you're obsessed with proving yourself, you'll chase status and miss stability. If you're obsessed with building value, you'll notice problems people will pay to solve.
So the magic is selective attention.
Exactly. Selective attention plus behavior. If your attention is tuned to opportunities, you'll take more shots. If you take more shots, you'll get more hits. Then your confidence grows, which improves your attention even more. It becomes a loop.
Let's connect this to a story. In the source material behind today's conversation, there's a theme. Someone starts in a terrible situation, bad economy, struggling company, and still grows fast. What's the non-myth version of that?
The non-myth version is, when the environment is collapsing, most people reduce effort to protect themselves emotionally. They detach. They do the minimum. They leave early. A small number of people do the opposite. They go deeper. Not because they're saints, but because they treat the situation as training. They learn faster because they touch more of the system. If everyone around you is avoiding responsibility, the person who leans in becomes rare. And rare people get access. They get information. They get mentorship. They get trust.
So it's not about being good. It's about being useful when others won't.
Yes, there's a practical rule. If you want disproportionate outcomes, do disproportionate work on the parts that matter. And do it when it's inconvenient.
A lot of listeners will say, That sounds like exploitation. Work for free, get used.
Important point. There's a difference between being exploited and doing a strategic apprenticeship. Exploitation is when you give value with no learning, no leverage, and no exit. Apprenticeship is when you intentionally trade time for skill, access, and proof. The key is, you must be honest about what you're buying with your effort. Are you buying skill? Are you buying portfolio? Are you buying relationships? Or are you just hoping someone notices?
So if someone is stuck in a job that's underpaying, the question is, what am I getting besides money?
Exactly. If the answer is nothing, that's a trap. If the answer is, I'm becoming the kind of person who can earn more, that can be worth it. Temporarily.
Now I'm going to move to another theme, independent thinking. A lot of people say they want it, but they don't act like they do.
Independent thinking is expensive because it means you can't outsource blame. If you think for yourself, you also take responsibility for being wrong. Most people would rather copy the crowd and feel safe.
How does that show up in money?
It shows up everywhere. People buy what everyone is buying. They chase the same jobs. They follow the same side hustle trends. They use the same financial rules without understanding the context. Independent thinking looks like you understand your risk tolerance. You build an emergency buffer before you chase high returns. You choose a strategy you can actually follow for 10 years. You stop comparing timelines.
You also mentioned one primary mission for the season. Say more.
Most people sabotage themselves with too many goals. They're trying to get fit, learn a language, start a business, invest aggressively, fix relationships, improve sleep. And because it's too much, they do none of it consistently. Compounding requires focus. Focus requires choosing what you will not do.
So if the listener picks one mission, what should it be?
The mission that unlocks the next level of options? Usually that's one of three. 1. Increase earning power. 2. Reduce financial fragility. 3. Build an asset that can scale. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, step 1 is fragility reduction. Emergency fund, stable expenses, predictable bills, because volatility kills progress. If you already have stability, step 1 might be earning power. A skill that the market rewards, sales, software, operations design, analysis, whatever fits you. If you have stability and earning power, step 1 can be an asset, a product, a channel, a small business, a portfolio, a system that earns without hourly effort every time.
That's very passive path. Stability, skill, then scale.
Exactly. You don't build a skyscraper on wet sand.
Let's talk about another claim that shows up in these ideas, that some people can see the future. They imagine an outcome and then it happens.
We should demystify that. When people say they saw it, often it means they had a clear model of where technology or society was moving, and they committed early enough that it looked like prediction. They weren't prophets. They were early and consistent.
So seeing the future is pattern recognition plus commitment.
Yes, and also courage to look wrong for a while. Early commitment looks stupid until it works.
But some people talk about it as an inner vision, like a vivid image of success.
That can happen too, but the mechanism is still practical. Your brain simulates outcomes. If you think deeply about a problem, you'll start forming clearer mental pictures of how it resolves. It's like chess. A beginner sees one move. A master sees a position 3 moves ahead. That's not magic. That's practice.
How do you practice seeing in business or life?
You do 3 things consistently. 1. You study real examples and build mental models. 2. You run small experiments and learn quickly. 3. You do deep work without distractions long enough to connect ideas.
Deep work is hard. People hate it.
Because deep work feels like being trapped with your own mind. No dopamine, no novelty, just you and the problem. But that's where original ideas come from. If your attention is constantly fragmented, you only remix other people's thoughts.
There's also an emphasis in the source material on working with the heart, not just the head. What does that mean without sounding like a poster?
It means values-driven effort. When you work only for money, you tend to quit the moment the money isn't immediate. When you work for craftsmanship, contribution, or meaning, you tolerate the boring middle. Also, heart can mean intuition, not mystical intuition, practical intuition. Your body notices patterns before your words catch up.
Give me an example.
You're negotiating a job offer. On paper, it's great, but something feels off. Maybe it's the way they dodge questions. Maybe it's the pressure tactics. Your heart is just picking up signals. Or you're building a side project. You notice you keep procrastinating on a feature. That might be laziness. Or it might be your brain telling you the feature doesn't matter, and you're avoiding the real hard part, distribution.
That's good. So heart is signals, not superstition.
Exactly. You still test it with reality. You don't obey every feeling, but you don't ignore them either.
Let's go to the idea of living in the present. This gets misunderstood. People think it means don't plan.
Right. Living in the present does not mean being careless. It means your attention is on what you can do today, not on fantasies or regrets. Planning is useful as a compass, but many people use planning as emotional comfort. They plan to feel in control, then reality changes, and the plan collapses, and they feel betrayed.
So what's a healthier approach?
Plan in ranges, not scripts. Instead of in 5 years I will do exactly this, use in 5 years I want these capabilities, these relationships, this financial base. Then build today's actions around those. Today is where you can actually execute.
Why do people get trapped in the past or the future?
Because it's safer than the present. The present requires action. The past offers stories. The future offers fantasies. If you live in regret, you relive pain without gaining information. If you live in anxiety, you suffer a future that doesn't exist yet. Both steal your attention from the only place you can change anything.
And attention is the main lever.
Yes. That's why present living matters financially. Because money is a long game. If you're constantly emotionally hijacked, you can't be consistent long enough to compound.
Let's be practical. What does live in the present look like in daily money behavior?
Here are a few examples. If you're investing, you choose a strategy and automate contributions. You stop checking prices daily. You focus on increasing contributions, not predicting markets. If you're paying off debt, you don't punish yourself with shame. You set a payment schedule and track it weekly. You change the environment, remove triggers, reduce friction. If you're building income, you commit to one skill and one distribution channel for 90 days. You measure output. You don't constantly restart because you feel behind.
So it's basically do the next right thing, repeatedly.
Yes, and you do it with calm, not with drama. Drama wastes energy.
There's another idea in the source material that can be risky if misunderstood, that the world responds to your inner state, that if you think negative thoughts, you attract negative outcomes.
That's where people can become superstitious. Here's a safer version. Your inner state influences your behavior and perception. That changes what opportunities you notice, how you treat people, how you persist, and what environments you choose. So the world responding is often you responding differently, and then getting different feedback.
That's a good translation.
Also, your inner state changes how you interpret neutral events. If you believe nothing works for me, every small setback becomes proof. If you believe I can learn, setbacks become data.
So belief changes interpretation. Interpretation changes action. Action changes results.
Exactly. That chain is real.
Let's bring this into entrepreneurship because the source material strongly pushes that. It basically says everyone should build something.
I think the spirit of it is right, but we should define entrepreneurship broadly. Not everyone needs to start a company tomorrow, but everyone benefits from thinking like an owner. How do I create value? How do I prove it? How do I get compensated? How do I reduce dependency on one fragile income stream?
So even a salaried worker can think like an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. You can build career equity. You can build a portfolio. You can build a reputation for solving specific problems. That's ownership thinking.
But if someone does want to start something, how do they avoid the common traps?
3 traps. 1. Starting too big. 2. Starting too vague. 3. Starting without distribution. Starting too big means you build a castle before you know if anyone wants to live in it. Starting too vague means you say, I'm starting a business, but you can't describe the customer or the offer. Starting without distribution means you build in silence and hope the internet finds you.
So what's the opposite?
Start small. Start specific. Start with distribution. Small. 1 service. 1 product. 1 clear promise. Specific. 1 customer type with 1 painful problem. Distribution. Decide how you'll reach them before you build.
Give a simple example that fits a normal person with a day job.
Sure. Let's say you're good at organizing messy processes. You could offer a 1-week workflow cleanup for small businesses. You map how they currently handle tasks. You set up a simple system, Notion, Trello, or even Google Sheets. You train them for 1 hour. You charge a fixed price. That's not glamorous, but it's real. And it teaches you how to sell, deliver, and improve.
And you can scale from there.
If you want. Yes. Or you can use it to build skills and leverage for your next move.
Let's go back to seeing opportunities. How does someone train that if they feel clueless?
They stop waiting for clarity and start collecting evidence. Clarity is usually the reward for action, not the prerequisite. So you run experiments. Talk to 5 people in an industry. Try 1 small freelance project. Build 1 tiny piece of content. Ship 1 simple offer. Then you ask, what energized me? What got traction? What felt heavy? What did people pay for?
That's very different from find your passion.
Passion is often the result of competence. People love what they get good at. If you wait for passion first, you may wait forever.
There's a moment in the source material where inspiration arrives in a strange way, like an accidental observation that solves a hard problem. People love stories like that.
Those stories are real. But again, the mechanism is practical. When you obsess over a problem healthily, not destructively, your brain keeps working in the background. Then a random event becomes relevant. You notice it. Most people experience the same random event and miss it because they weren't tuned to the question.
So the answer from the universe is often, you finally notice something useful.
Exactly. And there's a practice here. If you want those moments more often, 1. Define a clear question. 2. Work on it deeply. 3. Then take breaks. Walk, shower, sleep, so your brain can recombine ideas. 4. Capture insights immediately.
That's a real workflow.
Yes. It's also why people get good ideas at night. Not because the night has magic, because there's less noise and fewer interruptions, so your mind becomes quieter.
Let's talk about the emotional side. People want money, but they also want peace. How do these ideas connect to that?
Peace comes from reducing internal conflict. If you say you want freedom, but you live in constant distraction, you're fighting yourself daily. That fight drains you. When your actions match your values, life becomes calmer. Not easier, but calmer. And calm people make better financial decisions.
Because they don't panic buy, panic sell, panic quit.
Exactly. They can endure boredom. Boredom is a superpower in investing and building.
That's worth repeating. Boredom is a superpower.
Yes. The best strategies are often boring. Automatic investing, simple budgeting, consistent skill development, shipping small improvements. Most people abandon boring strategies because they want emotional excitement. But excitement is expensive.
Okay, I want to turn this into a small set of practices. If someone listens to this and says, fine, I buy the idea, what do I do tomorrow? What's the list?
I'll give 5 practices. Simple, not easy. Practice 1, the 1-sentence season. Write 1 sentence. For the next 90 days, my main mission is before messages, before news, before social. Spend 1 hour on the mission, not 10 minutes. 1 hour. Practice 3, a weekly reality check. Once a week, track 3 numbers. Income, spending, mission output, hours practiced, calls made, videos shipped, whatever matches your mission. Practice 4, a short visualization. That's not fantasy. Spend 2 minutes imagining yourself doing the work, not just enjoying the result. Imagine the boring part. Then, start. Practice 5, a present reset phrase. When you catch yourself spiraling into regret or anxiety, say, what is one thing I can do in the next 10 minutes? Then do it.
That's very grounded. I like that you included imagining the work, not the beach.
Because imagining the beach can become escapism. Imagining the work prepares your nervous system for reality.
Let's add a warning label. What are the ways people misuse these ideas?
3 common misuses. Misuse 1, magical thinking. They think believing is enough. Belief without behavior is just wishing. Misuse 2, self-blame. They hear your inner state matters and conclude everything bad is my fault. That's harmful. Reality includes randomness and other people's choices. The goal isn't blame. The goal is agency. Misuse 3, moral superiority. They start thinking, if someone is poor, they just didn't think right. That's also harmful. Circumstances matter. These ideas help you navigate circumstances. They don't erase them.
That's important. We're here to build agency without becoming arrogant.
Exactly. Quiet confidence, not ego.
Okay, I want to bring it home with a simple question. If the listener feels lost, like they don't know what story they're living, what do you tell them?
I tell them, your story is written by your daily choices, not by your intentions. So don't search for the perfect story, create a small one you can actually execute. Choose one mission, win today. Repeat. Over time, that becomes a real story.
And if they feel too late or too early to start?
Both are excuses dressed as wisdom. Too early means you haven't failed enough yet. Too late means you're afraid you won't catch up. Neither changes the next 10 minutes. Start small. Start now. Stay consistent.
I'm going to summarize what I'm hearing. First, outcomes compound when attention is stable. Second, seeing the future is often pattern recognition plus deep work plus early commitment. Third, living in the present means executing today's actions, not living in regret or fantasy. Fourth, entrepreneurship can mean building assets or simply thinking like an owner. And fifth, none of this is magic. Belief matters because it changes behavior. Guest, any final words before we close?
Just this. If you want a calmer financial life, build a calmer inner life, not by avoiding problems, but by focusing on what you can do today and doing it with consistency. Thanks for having me.
That's it for today's episode of The Passive Path. If you want a simple action to take right now, pick your 90-day mission and write it down. Then protect your first hour tomorrow. Talk soon.